Dear colleagues, can we start? I'm very happy to have you here, to welcome you in our pavilion, in very important event for Ukraine, and not just for Ukraine. It's about the environmental security under the peace formula of our president, Volodymyr Zelensky, and for us, the efforts under the peace formula and the point 8, it's very important. It's what we need to do for achieving the just peace. And also what is important today that we mark the 1,000 days since the full-scale invasion. And during this 1,000 days, unfortunately, we have a lot of destructions of our nature, destruction of our economy, of our energy. And just before yesterday, Russians again attacked the energy infrastructure. And yesterday, one of the biggest cities of Ukraine stayed in total blackout without electricity. And today we used the restriction schemes for all Ukrainians. And it's very weird and maybe not fair that during the biggest climate conference and during the conference, when we discussing the joint efforts, how to achieve the climate neutrality, how to make our economies, our international efforts more climate friendly, how to reduce the CO2 emissions. At the same time, Ukrainians suffered because of attacks, because of explosions, we have more and more emissions, and we need to think together how to stop it and how to prevent the situation like we have in Ukraine, how to make the ecological crimes and punishment. And I hope that today we will continue this work and we will find additional instruments how to achieve these results. And I want to give the floor to our head of presidential office, Andriy Yermak. He will give us also the vision of President Zelensky regarding the environmental security of our peace formula. Please.
Dear colleagues and friends, I'm honored to welcome you virtually to Ukrainian pavilion in COP29 in Baku. Today, the international community has gathered to address the greatest challenges of our planet faces, climate change. The world awaits meaningful outcomes from this conference. Yet, as we meet, Ukraine has been defending its freedom for nearly 1,000 days against Russia's illegal invasion. Russia's war in Ukraine isn't just against people. It's a war against nature itself. The numbers are shocking. 2,500 documented cases of environmental damage, 200 environmental war crimes under investigation. But these aren't just statistics. They are roots on our shared earth. Picture this, an area the size of Austria, now littered with the mines and shells. 1/5 of Ukraine protected natural areas turned into military base or battlegrounds. 1/3 of our forest gone. What is the area of Lesotho? What was burned or destroyed? But nature knows no borders. The ecocide in Ukraine is a collective challenge, for its consequences reach far beyond. The birds that normally migrate through your countries, many won't make this journey anymore. The air you breathe, it's warming from 14 million tons of carbon dioxide released by thousands of fires. The fish in your markets, They might come from Black Sea areas poisoned by chemicals and oil. What more, the war threatens global food security and supply chains. As a key food producer, Ukraine plays a crucial role in achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goal 2, Zero Hunger. We are grateful to our partners and friends. Your strong support brings us closer to peace. We are pleased with your taking part in this conference, but we also witness Russia's presence, the ultimate enemy of peace and humanity. Just mind you, when they commit crimes against nature in Ukraine, they commit crimes against all of you too, against your children, against your future. So to build resilience against climate change, it's necessary to defend against the barbarians of Putin's regime. Ukraine stands at the front line of this fight. We are committed to both protecting our people and ensuring a green, a resilient recovery. President Zelensky's peace formula provides a blueprint for the restoring stability to our fragile planet. Point 8 specifically addresses environmental security, crucial for us all. The formula's respective provisions were advanced during the International Peace Conference in Switzerland and further developed at the Environmental Security Conference in Helsinki. Environmental security forms the bedrocks of our transitions to the sustainable future. Another issue is environmental integrity. It is necessary to achieve the global goal of the 1.5 Celsius degree set under the Paris Agreement. But the matter is that the Russian war in Ukraine literally burns the money. We all need to fight climate change. Environmental security and integrity form the foundation for our collective actions. When compromised, they limit our ability to respond effectively and they challenge our global climate ambitions. Here in this climate conference, delegates can learn from our freedom struggle to fight climate change more effectively through enhanced cooperations and support. I welcome you to these productive discussions on green recovery principles and bringing the gap between climate ambitions and environmental security. As this is the Eastern European COP, I look forward to Ukraine hosting the next Eastern European COP in 5 years. Thanks for your attention. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава. Thank you to Andriy Yermak, and thank you for his input. And I want to invite also our ambassador in Azerbaijan, Yuri Gusev, to support me to coordinate this, to moderate this meeting. And dear colleagues, your excellencies, friends, thank you very much again for coming to participate in our event and to exchange the views regarding the 8.8 of peace formula of President Zelensky and environmental security. You know that environment doesn't have the borders, and what we have in Ukraine, what happened in Ukraine now could achieve the European countries very soon. For example, we discussed today with some of my colleagues that during last few months, we understand that war could damage and could could destroy all the natural resources very quickly, and it could have very bad influence to the people. For example, two months ago, we have the contamination of the most cleaner rivers in Ukraine, and situation was very dangerous. We had contaminated from Russian's territory, and all the biodiversity in these rivers were dead, and the situation were not just very sad, but also very dangerous, because we expected that the contamination will achieve the water supply stations, and 4 million people will be with the contaminated water, and situation could change every day, and every day we have new challenges. And we discussed just a few weeks ago with representatives of your countries. We discussed we met in Helsinki, and we discussed the situation with the ecological crimes, and how we could document, how we could record the ecological crimes from Russia against Ukraine, and how we could develop also, how we could start together develop the green principles of recovery of economy of Ukraine. And it's very important for us now, because we need to not just think, we need to start the green recovery of Ukrainian economy today. We don't need to wait the end of war. We need to start today, because you know that a lot of our energy infrastructure already destroyed it, and we need to rebuild, and we need to start building the new facilities, new capacities. Our transport infrastructure, buildings. We have really a lot of destructions, and we already started rebuild our country. And we discussed a lot that rebuilding of our country needs to be more greener, sustainable, climate neutral, but we need to develop together the principles of this green recovery. And I hope that today we could exchange the experience, we could find the best approaches, how we could go to the practical steps. And I want to give also the floor to our ambassador, Yuri Gusev, for the few words, and we'll start the
Thank you. Madam Minister, distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, it's a pleasure to be here and to speak about just peace for our country. To speak about that terrible war which continues 1,000 days after full invasion and more than 10 years after illegal annexation and occupation of Crimea and Donbass. Of course, I have a lot of words to say, but let me start with a moment of silence to our heroes, because they paid the biggest price to be here and to discuss about future, about climate, and about future generations. Let's pay a moment of silence of the heroes, to the heroes. Thank you. As the head of our presidential administration mentioned, we have a very clear roadmap to achieve just peace for our country. It's a peace formula of our President Vladimir Zelensky. And that peace formula is important not only for our country, but first of all for our country, because that peace formula consists of also energy, ecology security, nuclear security, and the peace formula of our president is important for the future. And we are here to promote peace formula as the only way to just peace in our country, the only way, because without energy security, without ecology security, we will not have just peace. That's why we're here to discuss about the future. And I want to say appreciation to our partners, to European Union, to countries who support us from the early beginning of this terrible war, and who continue our support, and who will help us to achieve just peace for our country. I want to say appreciation to Republic of Azerbaijan, because Republic of Azerbaijan provide humanitarian support for our country, and always support us with the territorial integrity and sovereignty, and we appreciate it very much. And today we are speaking about the future, the climate change. Could you imagine that even yesterday night, Russia did the biggest missile attack against our country? And we are here to speak about the future, because no doubt Ukraine will win. We will win. The world will win, because we're here to build the better future for our children. Thank you very much, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Ambassador. And that's true that without our partners, it will be not possible to stay, to fight, and to continue fighting, and to fight for our victory, for our future. And I want to give the floor to Ms. Sue Binias, the State Department's Principal Deputy Special Envoy for Climate, USA. And Sue, I know that with your huge experience, you could recommend us how we could change the situation with environmental security, and your input will be very important also for us. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me with you here today. Let me start by saying Russia's unprovoked full-scale invasion of Ukraine continues to cause devastation to the people and environment of Ukraine, and also has ripple effects around the world in exacerbating food, energy, and water insecurity. We strongly condemn Russia's continued attacks on Ukraine's energy grid, including the most recent large-scale attack that took place on Sunday. We support Ukraine's ongoing fight to defend its sovereignty and commend its efforts to advance climate and environmental resilience despite Russia's brutal war. The environmental challenges in Ukraine highlight important lessons about the interconnected nature of environmental security. As we see the worsening impacts of the climate crisis and its threats to the safety of our populations, it is absolutely critical that we prioritize resilience and security. The United States has taken bold action over the last 4 years to address the security implications of climate change, including impacts on food, water, energy systems, and more, at home and with our international partners abroad. Globally, this administration has worked to raise ambition, particularly from the major economies, to limit warming to 1.5 degrees, including through nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. Through PREPARE, the President's Emergency Plan for Adaptation and Resilience, we have mobilized a whole-of-government effort to help developing countries adapt to and manage the impacts of climate change, including particular sectoral focuses on health, water, and infrastructure. And the United States has prioritized integrating climate throughout U.S. domestic and foreign policy. For example, we have integrated climate and energy security as a core feature of our national security strategy and defense strategies around the world. We've built out our intelligence capabilities to conduct climate and security threat assessments. We have convened U.S. federal agencies and departments to work together on addressing the climate and security nexus, for example, at the intersection of climate change and fragility and climate displacement and migration. And 2 months ago, we also released our U.S. framework for climate resilience and security. The framework lays out a comprehensive approach to the critical nexus issue through 3 activities: assessing the potential impacts of climate-related security threats, partnering for an integrated approach, and investing in collective resilience. The last piece, investing in collective resilience, is key. To name one example relevant to our hosts here today, we are partnering with Ukraine to launch a 5-year vision to improve management of Ukraine's natural resources, which focuses on historical and current climate hazards, changing food security conditions, and climate adaptation for food, water, and climate security. This program is advancing Ukraine's climate resilience through a combination of technical assessments and capacity building workshops aimed at delivering long-term natural resource planning. Around the world, the U.S. is working to tackle related challenges, from conserving and restoring watersheds in climate-vulnerable regions to implementing programs that build early warning systems and bolster coastal infrastructure. There's still an enormous amount of work to do in building our collective resilience to the climate crisis and in building the security of the environment and the systems on which people everywhere rely. We thank those here today for your partnership in addressing these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we discussed today with my partner and colleagues, Francesca La Camera, the Director General of IRENA. We discussed the role of renewable energy development in achieving the Peace Formula goals, point 8 of Peace Formula goals, to achieving the global goals of global climate goals, and Ukraine has the same goal like the European countries. We plan to achieve climate neutrality by 2050, and without the efforts in the renewable energy sector, it will be not possible to achieve these goals. And Francesca, please, the floor is yours. We will be very happy to have your opinion and your recommendations here, please.
Thank you very much. So, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to join you today at this high-level event on environmental security and climate action. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to you, Svetlana, Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources in Ukraine, for the invitation to this event. The war in Ukraine has caused devastating harm to the country's environment, leaving lasting scars on its natural resources. Forests, rivers, and farmland have been polluted. Air quality has been deteriorated, endangering both human health and wildlife. Critical infrastructure has been damaged, leading to dangerous leaks of chemical and waste, posing severe risk to surrounding communities and ecosystems. This environmental devastation underscores the often overlooked toll of conflict, reminding us that the path to recovery must also prioritize the restoration and protection of Ukraine's environment. In the past 2.5 years, we have all witnessed the consequences of this destruction, not only on Ukraine's natural resources, but also on the health and livelihood of the people. The government of Ukraine has made environmental recovery and protection a key priority in the peace formula, as has been just said by the ambassador. This approach rapidly recognizes that the green recovery and energy transition stand at the core of environmental protection. At ARENA, we fully support this vision. Environmental protection is an inherent part of the just energy transition. Without limiting our impact on the environment and reversing the damage that has been done, the energy transition is not successful. At this core, a just transition is not only about decarbonizing energy system, but also about enhancing overall social well-being. This vision requires an holistic approach, where reducing environmental harm and reversing degradation caused by past action become integral to success. ARENA's World Energy Transition Outlook 2024 uses a welfare index to delve deeper into the socioeconomic impact of the energy transition across 5 critical dimensions: economic, social, environmental, distributional, and access. We quantify this dimension of impact to allow for a direct comparison of several transition scenarios. Our modeling result shows that welfare improves in all regions and across the 5 dimensions when countries step up their ambition to meet the necessary investment for the 1.5 Celsius scenario, compared to the existing commitment in the planet energy scenario. In other words, a more ambitious, successful energy transition does not only provide extra welfare to environmental benefit resulting from CO2 emissions, it also provides social and economic improvement with a fair dimension of outcome and improved energy access. Our analysis that we released here in Baku, our report called Vito, also stresses the needs for greater international financial flows. In this regard, we support the call for help from Ukraine to international partners to counter the environmental consequences of the war and improve the environmental security of the Ukrainian people. The scale of the environmental damage and the current energy shortage in Ukraine call for a unique approach. When conditions make traditional profit-driven projects unfeasible, we must shift our focus to making an impact. Public financing and smart policy should work hand in hand, prioritizing environmental, climate, and social goals over short-term financial returns. This strategy can create the foundation for renewable energy projects in the future, while providing immediate benefits to Ukraine's people, all without adding to the country debt burden. Within the context, I'm proud to highlight a significant partnership between ARENA and UNEP, with the support of the government of Italy, represented here by Minister Pichetto, aimed at addressing Ukraine's urgent energy challenges. Together, we are harnessing Ukraine's renewable energy potential through integrated city-level solutions, such as solar energy studies and pilot projects, to build a resilient and sustainable energy system. The collaboration reflects ARENA's unwavering commitment to support Ukraine on its path to a green and resilient future. I also, to end this, following a chat that we have to the minister, and in this way, talking with my EU friends. You know how important is in the fight climate change, giving a right price to carbon. And the European Union has an excellent instrument, the emission trade system. If Ukraine is going to join European Union, as this will happen, some transitionary measures could be taken to welcome Ukraine already in the emission trade scheme in the European Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Francesca. It's not easy for all Ukrainians to continue European integration process, but we decided and we are ready to do it despite the war, because of war. And we are the part of European family, and we will be the full member of European family. And we need to achieve all the goals and all the result, and to demonstrate the resilience, the strong willingness to be a sustainable country, to be a civilized country, to be a green country and developed country. Now I want, if you allow me, I want to give the floor to my colleague from Ukraine, Alexander Bevs. He is the advisor of the head of presidential office, and he is the main person who implementing the peace formula agenda. And Alexander, the floor is yours. Please give us some maybe inputs, and we will continue the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Your Excellencies, first of all, let me thank Azerbaijan for excellent hosting of COP29. As you all know, today is a remarkable day, unfortunately, in a negative context, 1,000 days of war, right? But this is not only 1,000 days of human suffering, it's also 1,000 days of nature suffering. And we always say in the context of environmental aspect of this war that we are trying to do all possible so nature is not any more silent victim as it usually becomes. I would try to be very concise, but I want to urge something in terms of ongoing peace processes or future peace negotiations, etc., to give a bit of broader context, which maybe will not be related to specifics about the environmental damage or accountability, which you already discussed and will discuss, but I will try to say one important thing which disturbs a lot many people in Ukraine, in presidential office, in government, and in civil society. Since the situation is deteriorating, since Russia relaunched its mass attacks and we again have electricity shortages, etc., and since, of course, the change of geopolitical circumstance in the world, which we all face and have this challenge together, everyone now is discussing what may be the frame for peace, how the territorial part shall be resolved, how the freezing of the front line or whatsoever can be done, and what can be the security guarantees and whatsoever. So we discuss, of course, the primary things which are very important for Ukrainian people and for global security and for European security. But what we are afraid a lot is that we may, in all this part, lose environmental aspect of this war, restoration of justice for environment, accountability for environmental crimes, and environmental restoration of Ukraine. The peace formula, we treat this like a helicopter umbrella view on all the aspects of the war, which includes energy, nuclear, humanitarian track, and environment as well. Why so? For the reason that this major war in Europe, the biggest war after Second World War, gives us not only tragedy and loss, it also gives us an opportunity to address properly all the challenges. And environmental damage is one of the major challenges, which is sometimes forgotten in all the discussions. So my key point today will be only one. In all the peace process, in all the way how this war may be ended, it's very important not to forget the environmental consequences of this war. As you know, the Office of the President, just half a year after the war started, launched the peace formula, and after that, we established an international working group on environmental consequences of the war, and it presented quite a comprehensive environmental compact which includes recommendations, 50 recommendations for Ukraine and international community on how to address the challenges. But I also want to praise the efforts of the ministry and the government in implementing that on the internal level. So Ukraine already has its action plan on how to make this real, on how to implement that in national legislation alongside with European integration and adaptation of our rules and normatives according to European standards. But what we are trying to say right now is that it's very important not to forget how nature suffered during this war. However this war ends, although Ukraine is doing everything possible to end it in a just and lasting and comprehensive peace manner, it's very important that environmental consequences are addressed properly. And I would once again stress how important it is to unite the efforts in terms of accountability of the Russian Federation in terms of its environmental crimes, including ecocide, although we sometimes try to avoid using this word in this discussion. We need to unite the efforts not to let nature remain in history as a silent victim of this war. We are trying to do our best here. Thank you, Minister, and that's all on our end.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, dear Alexander, for all your efforts. And we will continue our discussion, and to respect the time of everyone, I will ask colleagues to be brief if it's possible, just 2 minutes. But for us, it's very important to hear all of you, to hear your views, your opinions. And I want to invite my dear colleague, the Minister of Environmental Protection and Energy, yes, the Minister Picetto Fratin. Prego, Minister.
Sì. Innanzitutto grazie. I don't speak English, quindi lo farò in italiano e cercherò di farlo breve. Innanzitutto grazie Ministro per l'invito a questo incontro sui profili ambientali della formula di pace che l'Italia sostiene fortemente. Come ha recentemente ribadito il Presidente Meloni e il Presidente Zelensky, l'Italia continua a sostenere l'Ucraina contro l'aggressione russa. Condanniamo il bombardamento delle infrastrutture energetiche, il cui prezzo è pagato anzitutto dalla popolazione. Per alleviare le sofferenze degli ucraini durante l'inverno abbiamo stanziato più di 200 milioni di euro per il progetto BERS di collaborazione con il gestore idroelettrico ucraino e 15 milioni a dono per interventi immediati su infrastrutture energetiche.
I will try and be brief. I will speak in Italian with the translation into English for all of you. Thank you, Minister, for the invitation to this meeting on the peace formula and the environmental issues that Italy strongly supports. As President Meloni recently said to President Zelensky, Italy continues to support Ukraine and its legitimate defense interest against Russian aggression. And therefore, we condemn the bombing of energy infrastructures, and because this price is paid first and foremost by the civilian population. And in order to alleviate the suffering of the Ukraine people during the winter, we have allocated more than 200 million euros for the EBRD project of cooperation with the Ukrainian hydropower operator and 15 million in donations for immediate actions on energy infrastructures.
Il nostro sostegno all'Ucraina, al suo popolo, alla sua regione, costituirà l'essenza della conferenza sulla ripresa dell'Ucraina che l'Italia ospiterà a Roma a luglio 2025. Il nostro obiettivo resta di raggiungere una pace giusta, duratura e globale, basata sulla Carta ONU. Il ripristino dell'ambiente e del patrimonio naturale costituisce parte fondamentale di questo processo. A tal fine, il Ministero dell'Ambiente e della Sicurezza Energetica ha firmato nel 2023 con il Ministero dell'Ambiente ucraino un memorandum d'intesa su sviluppo sostenibile e protezione ambientale per costruire un'Ucraina più sostenibile e più verde. libera dalla tecnologia ereditata dall'era sovietica.
Please believe me that our support for Ukraine and its people and its reconstruction will remain at the heart of the Ukraine Recovery Conference that Italy will host in Rome next July 2025. And our goal remains to achieve a just, lasting, and comprehensive peace based on the UN Charter. Restoring the environment and natural heritage is a key part of this process. To this end, the Ministry of the Environment and Energy Security of Italy signed a memorandum of understanding on sustainable development and environmental protection with the Ukrainian Ministry of the Environment in 2023. And in order to secure sustainable development and environmental protection to build a more sustainable and greener Ukraine, free of technology inherited from the Soviet era.
Grazie a questo accordo è iniziata una collaborazione per modernizzare il sistema della qualità dell'aria in Ucraina e siamo fiduciosi che il progetto sarà presto reso operativo. Energetica è componente essenziale della ripresa e del futuro dell'Ucraina. Nella conferenza di Roma daremo enfasi all'iniziativa Clean Energy Partnership per ricostruire un sistema energetico ucraino sicuro, sostenibile e integrato col mercato europeo.
And thanks to this agreement, a collaboration has been established to modernize the air quality monitoring system to be applied in Ukraine. And we are confident that the project will soon be made operational. Energy transition is also an essential component of Ukraine's recovery and future. At the Rome conference, we will emphasize the Clean Energy Partnership Initiative in order to rebuild a Ukrainian energy system which will be secure, sustainable, and integrated with the European market.
In questo contesto, l'Italia ha approvato un progetto guidato dall'UNEP in collaborazione con IRENA, focalizzato sulle aree urbane, che con un valore di 2 milioni di euro mapperà il fabbisogno energetico e svilupperà piani a livello cittadino e la capacità locale nelle energie rinnovabili, redigendo il piano per un impianto solare di 30 megawatt. Concludo ribadendo il pieno sostegno e cooperazione dell'Italia per garantire la sicurezza ambientale dell'Ucraina. Grazie.
In this context, Italy has already approved a UNEP-led project in collaboration with IRENA focused on urban areas amounting to a value of 2 million euros. And it will map energy needs and develop city-level plans and local capacity in renewable energy, drafting a plan for 30 megawatt solar power plant. Let me conclude now by reiterating Italy's full support and cooperation to ensure the environmental security of Ukraine. Thank you for your kind attention.
Grazie. Grazie mille, Minister. And I want to ensure you that during the next URC in Rome next year, we will present the very concrete projects in different areas of our economy. And these projects will be based on green principles, which we develop using the platform of point 8 of Peace Formula. But you know that environment and natural of our neighbors also suffered because of war in Ukraine. And I want to give the floor to my colleague, Mircea Fecet, Romanian Minister of Environment Protection, for the floor, please.
Thank you, Svetlana. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, I'll start by saying that Romania condemns in the strongest terms the permitted Russian aggression on Ukraine and expresses its full support for Ukraine and its solidarity with the Ukrainian people, victims of the brutal war of aggression unleashed by Russia. Ukraine is not fighting only for its territorial integrity and independence. It's also defending the values and the principle that represent the cornerstones of the rule-based international order: democracy, respect for human dignity, and liberty. We will stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes, until the successful end of the war and restoration of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The war against Ukraine caused large-scale environmental damage and resulted in unprecedented pollution, disruption of ecosystem, and physical destruction of biological species, both on the territory of Ukraine and on the scale of the entire region and the world. To ensure environmental security and to counter the environmental consequences of the war against Ukraine, it is vital to consider and ensure environmental damage assessment, including the impact on human health and biodiversity conservation, as well as recovery and reconstruction, including the green economy transition. According to the public information that we've had so far, and I have seen with my own eyes some of the disaster that already happened, because I had the chance to visit twice Ukraine since the war started, but we talk about millions of hectares of forest that have been affected, thousands of tons of fossil fuels that have been consumed by the flames, and a lot of degraded protected areas and destroyed water treatment plants. The conflict generated many forest fires, which released millions of tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. And talking about the way that the war is not only affecting Ukraine, I still remember the day with the Novakhovka disaster, when all the Europe was worried about the environmental damage that will suffer not only the Dnieper River, but also the Black Sea that has been affected. So, as we all agree, environmental damage does not respect borders. We have no time to waste. We need to help, to support, and to work together. Romania highlights the importance of engaging international experts and organizations with expertise in ecosystem restoration to elaborate effective strategies. And we also agreed that in such circumstances, it is important to implement policies that integrate mechanisms of ecological resilience into security policies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Minister. And I want to give the floor to my colleague, Minister of Climate of Estonia, Yoko Alender. Minister, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for organizing this and also having us here. I want to repeat my words that I just also said during our state speech address. That's why I'm a little bit delayed. I'm sorry. We mind the countries whose environment and economies have been severely impacted by war. We must support them in moving towards the climate. The responsibility for war-related climate impacts should rest with the aggressor. We as a global community have an essential role. The need to increase our contributions to the restoration of Ukraine's valuable and unique environment, ensuring that you feel international partners. I think the microphone is a little bit maybe not. Of course. Yes. Yes, it's working. Thank you. Just wanted to say that you have our support and we forward during until the victory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Minister. And now I want to give the floor also to my friend, Minister of Environment Protection of Lithuania, Simonas. The floor is yours. But I hope with microphone, everything will be okay.
Thank you, Svetlana. And for 1,000 days, Russia has abolished the international law. And we all here connected and came here to Baku because we trust in the international law, because we trust in global agreements. And when one country is abolishing the international law, it should be isolated. So was Russia for most of the time from many of international bodies. But to look further, we have to bring international law in action when it concerns environment. Because if we trust in COPs, if we trust in international law, there should be international law which says that any aggressor against the environment, wherever it would be, should be responsible, should be kept responsible. And whoever thinks in future of degrading environment anywhere around the world should think that international law is there to keep them responsible. And coming to the peace formula, it's essential that multilateral international institutions would bring the methodology, both and conventions, in order to keep Russia responsible for what it has done so far in Ukraine and surrounding environment in neighboring countries. And we have been very generous, most of us, by bilateral help towards Ukraine to keep its capacity, both physical and human capital present there. But it's very essential that we would support the multinational organizations, just like UNEP programs, UN Habitat, and other multinational organizations, for them to be present in Ukraine and speak in terms of the whole world, not only on bilateral connections, but generally in the whole world's voice. That's why I think we as a countries which are here should press and keep priority of peace formula number 8, that ecocide should be kept as a part of war crime, and those should be responsible. This is essential in also not only in Ukraine sense, but also to prevent the future conflicts and the disasters for environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Simonas. You are absolutely right. And we already established together with UNEP and IRENA and a lot of international organizations, the Green Recovery Platform. And we will use this platform under the Peace Formula point 8. And we need to develop and to build new rules and new methodologies. We need to understand how we will stop in the future the situation like we have in Ukraine now, and how we will prevent the situation like we have in Ukraine now. But now I want to give the floor to the Swedish climate ambassador and head of delegation, the Matthias Frumery. Sorry, please.
Minister, thank you so much. Thanks. It's an honor to be with you here today. And as others have said as well, Russia's unlawful full-scale invasion has made the importance of environmental security very evident. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine not only violates Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, but also threatens our common security. The deliberate bombings of civilian infrastructure and residential neighborhoods demonstrate the brutality of the Russian aggression. Strong and long-term international support to Ukraine is a matter not only of Ukrainian, but also European and global security. Russia is waging war against one nation, Ukraine, but it violates the rules and principles of international law that underpin the security of all of us. It is with great concern that we follow the devastating consequences for the environment of the war in Ukraine. At a time when humanity is facing the triple planetary crisis of biodiversity loss, climate change, and pollution, These threats are compounded in Ukraine as a consequence of Russia's aggression. Russia needs to be held to account for the damage it has inflicted on Ukraine, including to its environment. Support to Ukraine, as is it exercising its inherent right to self-defense against Russian aggression, is Sweden's foremost foreign policy priority now and for the coming years. Since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion, Sweden has contributed approximately 5 billion euros on humanitarian, financial, and military support to Ukraine. This includes remediation and rehabilitation of the environment through our reconstruction and reform cooperation with Ukraine. We see how these go hand in hand. Reconstruction efforts, for example, related to waste management, also contribute to Ukraine's reform work towards EU accession. This is particularly the case for Chapter 27 of the EU Acquis on the environment, a technical and difficult part of the accession negotiations, but where Sweden has extensive experience that we are leveraging in our cooperation. Another important aspect is our support to the assessment of environmental damages in Ukraine, which also contributes to accountability efforts. We welcome the important step taken by Ukraine in October this year with the adoption of the Framework Law on Climate Policy, formalizing Ukraine's alignment with the EU's long-term climate target of climate neutrality by 2050. And you can count on Sweden's continued support to Ukraine. Thanks very much, Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. You know that under the point 8 of Peace Formula, we have very special partners. It's our co-chairs, and I want to give the floor to Ambassador to Finland. Christine Narinen, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister, my friends, my colleagues. Today marks the 1000th day of Ukraine's fight for the right to exist as a free sovereign nation among equals. Ukraine is fighting for democracy against imperialism on behalf of all of us. The aggressor is doing all it can to shake the political system and break its fundaments. We should not let that happen. The horrendous devastation of Ukraine's natural environment caused by Russia's illegal war of aggression is inhumane violation of several acts of international law, UN Charter, Geneva Convention, Rome Statute of International Criminal Court, to mention the few. The right to clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is a human right. The Peace Formula is the only peace initiative based on the UN Charter and respect for an international rule-based order. Its objective is to achieve peace. They are based on Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. President Zelensky has chosen environmental security as one part, and that we need to commend him for his foresight and wisdom. We have far too long ignored and dismissed the devastating long-term or permanent effects of armed conflicts that they have on the environment, the silent victim of the war. Accountability, compensation for the damage caused by Russia to Ukraine's environment should become a matter of global justice. We've been working to get international recognition on this. It's clear that we must work together. Finland had the pleasure of hosting an international high-level conference on environmental security in Helsinki in October, a few weeks ago only. Minister Mykkänen chaired it together with Madam Minister. And we acknowledge the excellent cooperation between Germany, Bulgaria, and Finland as co-chairs. The conference was a great success, and its deliberations will feed into the proposals of the second Peace Summit, which will be formulated based on all 10 points of the Peace Formula. During the conference, we deliberated 4 crucial points: impact assessment of the damage and destruction, ensuring accountability of the war environmental damage, restoration of the environment damaged, and ensuring environmental resilience and sustainability. And let me also acknowledge the groundbreaking work of this international working group on the environmental consequences of the war, chaired by Mrs. Margot Wallström and Mr. Andriy Yermak. We now need to implement the Environmental Compact for Ukraine, which has finalized in February 24. The group will continue its work to assist the Ukrainian government. Distinguished participants, our work continues. Finland will chair the Organization of Security Cooperation of Europe next year. Finland will continue supporting Ukraine in every possible way, including the military support. We will seek to promote security and resilience in the region as well. And through supporting Ukraine's EU integration process, Finland supports not only Ukraine, but also other candidate countries. The aim is not to repair or to restore, but to rebuild a new system of resilience and sustainability. And we also continue our work on all relevant global fora in mitigation, in adaptation, in financing, and building a better world for our children, not only Ukraine, but also globally. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, dear Ambassador. Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you, Finland, for your support and for co-chairing the working group of Peace Formula Point 8. And now I want to give the floor to another very important co-chair of our Point 8 of Peace Formula, Ms. Eva Krach, Director General for International and European Policy from the Ministry of Environment Protection from Germany, please.
Thank you very much, Minister, Excellencies, colleagues. Russia's war of aggression has shattered peace in Ukraine, Europe, and beyond. Germany stands with Ukraine in its self-defense against this aggression. The war, of course, has caused a lot of death, injuries, incredible human hardship. But what's more, the environment takes harm. It suffers destruction of environmental infrastructure as well as ecosystems, pollution and contamination, as described very clearly by yourself, Minister, and by Mr. Yamak. Germany, as one of the co-chairs of the working group on ecological safety and war-related damages, is very thankful to Ukraine for bringing us together around this key issue for Ukraine's sustainable peace and recovery. We participated in the Helsinki conference just mentioned by the ambassador, but I would like to, as examples, point out a few ways that particularly the Environment Ministry of Germany supports Ukraine in its green recovery. Firstly, we've supported the assessment of environmental damage. Secondly, we've been supporting emergency response in relation with the destruction of environmental infrastructure via a window of a fund run by the EBRD. We've provided 20 million euros for that. Thirdly, we followed very closely the launch of the platform for action on the green recovery of Ukraine in the context of the Berlin Ukraine Recovery Conference in June. That platform is run jointly by UNEP, UNECE, and OECD. And we really think this is very important for green recovery, for supporting the transition, and also for Ukraine's path towards the EU. Let me end by underlining that Germany will continue to stand firmly with Ukraine to achieve a peace that is just and lasting, with strong recovery and support regarding environmental damage and security. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Eva, for all your support which you provided in the full-scale invasion. It's very, very important for us. And now I want to give the floor to EU Ambassador in Azerbaijan, Petr Mikalko. Yes, I'm correct. Please, the floor is yours.
Distinguished ministers, dear ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, шановні друзі. It's an honor to be here. It is a global conference dedicated to climate action, that is action for all of us. But also a sad moment to see already 1,000 days of suffering, of the war, of aggression that Russia started against Ukraine with full-scale invasion. So many lost lives, crimes, destruction also of environment, destruction that affects climate. Ukraine is defending itself. Ukraine is defending also ourselves and entire world because it defends international rules-based order, but also security of Europe, and also having in mind the damage that the war is causing to environment and to climate. We see that these crimes against humanity done by Russia, they are also crimes, and this is aggression not only against Ukraine, this is aggression against entire world and against each and every one of us, because as it was said, climate does not have borders. Therefore, it is important to say that support to Ukraine means also support to this important effort to protect international rules-based order, to protect the world, and also to protect climate. The European Union has been with Ukraine from the very beginning, from the day one, with civilian and military support provided to Ukraine. That includes also support to energy infrastructure and modernization of energy infrastructure. But Europe also goes further and shares the perspective of being together with Ukraine in our European family. Ukraine is a candidate country, starts negotiations, and part of negotiations are chapters on environment and other related chapters. And for this, also Ukraine has opportunity to introduce the highest standards and also to receive support for introduction of these standards. And we also support Ukraine's peace formula, because this is the way how to end this war. It's so impressive, and we must express admiration on the fact that Ukraine is also introducing the environment point in this peace formula and acts together with all of us in order to protect climate, is participating also at this global conference and takes action in energy transition and takes action to introduce renewables and action for protection of climate. Therefore, also for this, our support is continuing and will continue. We will be together with Ukraine as long as it takes, because Ukraine must win this war. We will win this war because this will be a win for all of us, for entire world. But this also will strengthen the security of all of us, including climate security. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for your support. And now I want to give the floor to Poland, Ms. Paula Haras, the advisor to the minister. Ms. Paula, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, everyone. And I would like to begin by sending apologies from Minister Krystal Lester, Poland's Secretary of State for Climate and the Environment. Unfortunately, had a last-minute computer engagement. Sorry. I would like to echo the sentiments expressed here by our colleagues, friends, and neighbours. I would also like to reiterate our commendations of the peace formula, especially point 8 on ecological security, but also to highlight the interrelationship between all of these points, especially food security and energy security. In addition to advising Poland's Minister for Climate and Environment, I'm actually a scholar of environmental conflicts and cooperation and a member of the International Environmental Peacebuilding Association. So these are all topics and ideas that have been very dear to my heart personally for many, many years. And with this experience, I can absolutely say that the only way to peace and environmental security is through the points outlined in this peace formula, through good governance, through diplomacy, through track 1 diplomacy between states, through track 2 diplomacy between governments and civil society organizations, and above all, remembering that when it comes to the environment and environmental security, we are all on the same team. I do applaud Ukraine's ecocide laws and the focus on the within the environmental compact for Ukraine on accountability for Russia's crimes against the environment and the focus on reparations. That is very important. But also I understand, and as I think we all do here, that long-lasting environmental peace building comes from working together on the food, energy, water, ecology nexus. And that is what I, and Poland is very pleased to see reflected in this peace formula. I would also like to say, and I think express a sentiment I am sure is shared by many of us, that in committing long-standing support to Ukraine, we're also looking very intently at Ukraine and learning from the experiences of building resilience and peace building. The principles and approaches for building environmental, societal, and economic resilience in the face of tragedy, in the face of war. These principles are equally applicable to Poland and, I dare say, many of us here today, because by building environmental security, food security, energy security, and of course, water security in our own countries, we build resilience in the face of a changing climate, in the face of economic trade wars and other geopolitical instability. So in the interest of time, I will conclude here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Paula. Thank you, Poland. Now I want to give the floor to Sonia Kipel from the UNEC Water Convention. You know that the biggest threat now, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, it is a water security, and to ensure the water supply, clean water to our people is the main goal and the main task for our government, and we are hope to have also your support in this case. And please, Sonia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delivering this statement also on behalf of Tatiana Molchan, who's the Executive Secretary of UNECE. She apologizes for not being able to be here today, but expresses solidarity with Ukraine and also our support for the green recovery of Ukraine through different initiatives. Firstly, as already mentioned, UNECE, UNEP and OECD jointly launched the Platform for Action on the Green Recovery of Ukraine at the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Berlin in June, which provides a long-term framework for coordinated and coherent activities in support of a green recovery. Secondly, UNECE, United Nations Economic Mission for Europe, has convened an informal interagency coordination group on environmental assessments for Ukraine, which helps the international community to be aware of each other's activities and assessment, which has, for example, already organized a seminar on this topic earlier this year on the use of Earth observation technology in Ukraine. Thirdly, UNECE has initiated discussion with Ukraine on evaluation of laws, policies, and institutions based on the methodology of environmental, and we look forward to continuing these discussions. Finally, we said we have been supporting Ukraine for many years with regard to water management, also access to water supply and sanitation in the framework of the Water Convention and Protocol on Water and Health. And we express our support for the future to continue this work. Notably, for example, we have supported also transboundary cooperation between Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova on the Dniester River Basin, which has led to a transboundary agreement and establishment of the Dniester Commission. And just a few weeks ago, following a meeting between Ukraine and Moldova, we have received a request to support the countries in updating climate change scenarios, particularly with regards to low water levels in the river basin. So we are currently working on a report and interactive with national experts, which will be presented even next week at the meeting of the Dniester Commission. And in the longer, and will be finalized by the end of the year. And in the longer term, we look forward to continuing to support the two countries in their transboundary cooperation in the framework of a future second project funded by the Global Environment Facility. So finally, to conclude, I would like to reiterate our support from UNEC and from the Water Convention and the Protocol on Water and Health, in particular with regards to environment recovery and water management and transboundary cooperation in particular. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Sonia. And I hope that next week during the Water Commission in Moldova, we will achieve the good result, because it's what we need to protect. It's our water resources is the main tasks for this moment. But I want to give the floor to another our very important partner, OECD, to Mathilde Mesnard. We have a lot of plans. We have a lot of discussions with your colleagues, and I hope we will implement everything under the point 8 of Peace Formula. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Minister. Yes, it works. So Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has caused profound environmental damages, in addition to the tragic human losses and enormous economic destruction. So amidst the ongoing aggression, we commend Ukraine for making every effort to restore and maintain vital environmental infrastructure and mitigate the environmental impacts of war. In the short term, the priority is clear. The existing and potential impacts on human health should take precedent when mitigating the environmental effects of the war. But looking further ahead, in the medium to longer term horizon, the post-war economic development of Ukraine should be used to fundamentally rethink the status quo and transition towards a green and net zero economy. It's already very encouraging that Ukraine relentlessly reforms environmental policies and legislation to align them with the EU and OECD standards. Recent OECD reviews of environmental taxation and subsidies of public environmental expenditure support to strengthening water management legislation and institutions, as well as expanding environmental monitoring, already provide concrete support to strengthening the effectiveness of the system and generating much needed funding. We are also very proud that the OECD was one of the organizations supporting the establishment of the international platform for green recovery of Ukraine, together with the governments of Ukraine and Germany and the UNEP and UNESCO. The OECD will continue supporting the platform with its multidimensional analysis and experience in offering outcome-oriented policy reforms for green recovery and mobilizing finance for green reconstruction. So we look forward to our joint efforts to not only address the environmental damage caused by the war, but also to build a sustainable, resilient future for Ukraine and its people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have a lot of plans, joint plans, and we need to implement using the Green Recovery Platform with all partners. And we have one more speaker, is Blanko Zebic, Ambassador of Croatia.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Thank you, Yuri, for inviting me this important event for Ukraine and for all of us. So I didn't prepare any speech, so it's difficult to say something new. We all support Ukraine, and in this difficult moment, speaking as a Croatian ambassador, as ambassador here in Baku, also I would like to reiterate and what Peter Michalko said, Croatia also fully support as a member of EU from the first day of the aggression to Ukraine, on all possible ways, humanitarian, military, and all others. But now thinking about what we can do for you, because Croatia is a specific country, you all know, because we have the same experience, unfortunately. So it's not a long time that we experienced, it's 30 years, but still very vivid. And speaking about environment, this is probably one more sector that Croatia in the future, in the very near future, to contribute also for healing your bonds and to help as it has done in all other sectors till now. Yeah. So thank you once again for organizing this, for inviting me, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, dear colleagues. And now I want to thank to all of you. And during this 1,000 days of terrible war, terrible period for all Ukrainians, and not just for Ukrainians, you continue to support us, you stayed with us, and it gives us the power to fight, to continue fighting. It's not easy, but we understand that we have just only one way, and we need to win, and we need to develop and to build, to continue building our country, our economy, and for us, for our children's future. And I hope that using the Peace Formula platform, using the environmental security point of Peace Formula, we will develop, we will build together the green principles and special legislation. We will improve the international rules, and we will prevent the same situation, the terrible situation of war in the future. And we will propose after this meeting, like follow-up, we will propose the practical steps, and we will continue this discussion. And I hope that with all of you, we will continue this work together. But now I want to thank you again for participation in this event, for your support really during this 1,000 days. It sounds terrible, but I hope 2,000 we will not have. But thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much, and hope to see you, all of you, in Ukraine, but in peaceful Ukraine. Thank you.